Hello, Oilers fans. Austin here, and in today's video, we have something pretty important to talk about. And I didn't think I would be making this video, not because I didn't believe, but because I am someone that is always trying to take the positives out of things. Even when the team is losing, I still try and find positives out of their game. But this is a situation where we can no longer ignore the elephant in the room. And for a lot of Oilers fans, you've already been explaining, you've already been screaming into the abyss, the void, Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube. You've all been saying it. And it's taken me a long time to fully grasp it and get on your side. But in today's video, we are going to talk about Stuart Skinner and how the Edmonton Oilers, they will not win a division championship, they will not win a President's Trophy, and they will not win a Stanley Cup if he is the full-time starter. There are many reasons why I have slowly been changing my views on this. It's something that even as recently as last night's video, the post-game fan reaction against the Leafs, where I was downplaying things, and I've been trying to downplay things a lot because I try and balance that positivity. Even after the Oilers lost Game 7 against Florida, I still tried to find positives because this community is an amazingly positive community to be part of. And for Stuart Skinner, listen, I'm ride or die all the time. Right? I have this hockey card. I have his card in the background of my videos, my live streams. But Stuart Skinner, we have to have the tough conversation here that he is not the guy. And that is not anything against Stuart Skinner. But if the Edmonton Oilers want to be serious about winning a championship, if they want to be serious about maximizing the value of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in their prime, the organization would be best suited to go and get a number one starting goaltender. And I don't say that lightly. I have been I've probably been one of the most toxic positive fans when it comes to Stuart Skinner and defending him on Twitter or X.com, if you call it that. I always post stats promoting Stuart Skinner as a great goalie and a goalie that the team can win with, but I can no longer ignore reality. Right? It's one thing to be positive, and it's one thing to always try and take a positive out of a negative, but it's another thing to be living in a completely delusional society, I guess. And we need to get the reality check here. And as an Oilers fan that does have a voice on this platform, as a fan that sees the frustration, I see it. I see it from all of you commenting on videos. I see it in the live streams. I see that frustration. I don't play into the frustration because I don't think snowballing it is worth anything, but I see it and I acknowledge it and I understand it. Stuart Skinner will not win this team a Stanley Cup. Not on his own. I think he can have someone play with him and give him an opportunity to be part of a Stanley Cup winning team. But when it comes to this team's longevity, sustainability as a contender, Stuart Skinner is not the guy. They have to go out. They have to make a trade. That should be the absolute number one thing that they prioritize at the trade deadline, other than finishing talent, because this team also can't score at a rate that they should be. The Edmonton Oilers rank among the bottom 10 teams in goals saved above expected. Stuart Skinner ranks among the bottom 10 in goals saved above expected from a starter with at least 10 games started. And yes, he had a good January. He does have his highs. He has his lows, but he does cost us games. And he rarely steals games. That's the other thing. There are games where he does great. Did he steal the LA Kings 1-0 win back in January on the 13th, the game I went to? Maybe. But when it comes to a goalie that you watch every night and you're like, wow, can this goalie do that in the playoffs? I think so. When I watch Stuart Skinner and when you watch Stuart Skinner, constantly, every single night, the Edmonton Oilers are going up against opponents, and Stuart Skinner is constantly the second best goalie. He's constantly the second best goalie. And it's a situation where it's not entirely Skinner's fault, because I think Dustin Schwartz, their goaltending coach, has a part to play in this. He's someone that has survived all the axing of different coaches and managers and president of hockey ops and, all that stuff. But it's not just on the goaltending coach. Stuart Skinner, sometimes a goalie just doesn't have the it factor, right? That X factor. It's like in NHL 25 if you play that video game. Certain players who are elite above the rest of the class, you could say, they have what's called X factors. They have abilities that allow them to be game breakers and steal games or take a game over. Stuart Skinner doesn't have that. Stuart Skinner does not have good lateral movement. He might be among the slowest in the entire NHL from going from one side of his crease to the other. His rebound control is mid. And unless he is square to the shooter, and unless the defense gives him a clear lane to see the puck, he very rarely makes the save. And the Oilers too often this year have fallen behind in games. They fall behind early, and they're trying to climb out of the hole. And a lot of times they come back and win. And we're all excited in the postgame. I'm excited, and I say, you know what? Stuart Skinner, he's like Grant Fuhr, doesn't give up the next one, right? Gives up the first couple, gives up the first 3 or 4, but he locked it down when he had to. I want to see this team get a lead and hold a lead. I want to see this team where maybe if they give up a bad break, maybe a breakaway, 2-on-1, I want to see the saves. Skinner obviously makes saves. We know that. And I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. He was thrust into the starter position 3 years ago because Jack Campbell was way overpaid and completely unplayable. And I hope Jack Campbell's doing okay wherever he is right now, because the pressure that he put on himself too, and when it comes to the Edmonton market and goalies in Edmonton's market, we just haven't had an elite goalie, probably since Curtis Joseph in the 90s. Tommy Salo was okay, right? Dwayne Rolson had a great playoff run. Cam Talbot had a good year and a half with the team, but it's Mike Smith, same thing. Like, they have their moments, but you need a bona fide number 1 starter if you want to have any chance of winning a championship. So we're going to dive into 5 goalies that I think the Oilers should be targeting. This is not exactly a realistic list, but there are arguments to be made why a team might move them, and we'll see if they're able to do that. Let's take a look at the 5 goalies that I think Edmonton should be targeting at the trade deadline. Top 5 goalies. Number 1. Now, this is not in any order. This is not like any specific order. But first goalie we'll talk about, Karel Vejmelka from the Utah Hockey Club. On the season, according to Evolving Hockey, this is where I got all the stats from, by the way, 17.77 goals saved above expected, a 911 save percentage. Real good goalie. The Utah Hockey Club, maybe they're a playoff team. They're kind of on the bubble, right? They're kind of a wild card team. They're still building for the future. If they're sellers at the deadline, and if you have the assets and they want to move a goalie out, that's someone that I would target personally. I think he's having a good year in Utah, and that's a goalie that has consistently played well all season, and someone I'd love to see Edmonton target. Number 2 would be Joey Daccord from the Seattle Kraken. On the year, an incredible 19.42 goals saved above expected with a 917 save percentage. Joey Daccord is one of the only reasons why the Seattle Kraken are able to win hockey games right now. They have no scoring touch at all. Defensively, they're meh. Joey Daccord is amazing. And I don't think Seattle would give him up lightly. That is their starting goalie. If that's a team that thinks that they can contend in a couple years, you want your goalie, right? Joey Daccord can be that guy. But if you have the assets, absolutely make that trade. We've seen some big trades lately, so there's no excuse. As a contending team, we see Vegas make big trades all the time. I want the Oilers as a contender to make the big trade. Make the trade. Number 3, John Gibson. Now, he's a little bit more iffy because of his injury history, right? I think he's hurt right now, too. I don't think Lucas Dostal would be the target that Edmonton could get, because Anaheim, that is their goalie of the future. But they may want to move on from John Gibson. Get them to retain half. If Gibson is healthy, that's a goalie that can give the team a chance to win. Tons of playoff experience, having a great year. That's someone I'd target. Another goalie, not as impressive on the year in terms of stats for save percentage, is Sam Montembeault from the Montreal Canadiens. I know they signed him to a 3-year contract last year, but that Dobish kid that has come up and just played otherworldly for Montreal. They want to maybe keep him, if they want to prioritize him as their guy of the future. Montreal, again, they're a team fighting for a wild card spot. They have 2 goalies that they can rotate in and out. Sam Montembeault is someone that I would consider for the Edmonton Oilers. That's someone that would be like a 1B with Skinner, right? Two goalies where you see who can play better and then you ride the hot hand throughout the playoffs. And then the fifth one, I don't think Carolina would do it. And Frederik Andersen, same thing as John Gibson, has had his injury troubles. But Frederik Andersen, I think, with the playoff experience that he has and how strong of a goalie that he is, I'd target him in a trade. 6.5 goal save above expected on the year, 913 save percentage. These would be my top 5 goalie targets. Of course, there are tons of goalies out there. I don't know who's all on the market. I don't know what teams are willing to trade. I don't know what you have to give up. I am not in a position to make those decisions. That is up to Stan Bowman, Jeff Jackson, and other general managers in the NHL. But we have to confront the reality that Stuart Skinner is not the guy for the Oilers to win a Stanley Cup. He can be on a Stanley Cup winning team, but the Edmonton Oilers, they are a top 5 defensive team. They give up the least amount of high danger chances in the entire NHL. And they're constantly behind the 8 ball. They're constantly down in hockey games. For a team that is that good defensively, and for a team that is scrutinized as much as they are for their defense, the stats don't lie. The Edmonton Oilers are a good defensive, structured hockey team. Their weakest link is their goaltending. And if they don't improve it, and if they don't improve it by the trade deadline, if they don't improve it going into the playoffs, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers and Oilers fans, we may never see a Stanley Cup in this city under the prime of McDavid and Draisaitl until they improve that position. They need an upgrade, and that is my video today. So if you ended up enjoying it, make sure to hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure to subscribe. And who are your goalie targets? I want to know. Let me know who you think the Oilers should be targeting in trades, what goalies you would want in Edmonton, and I'd love to hear all your thoughts. So make sure to let me know in the comment section below. As always, tell someone that you love them, and fight like a kid. Fight like Ben. Let's go, Oilers.